The Midnight Hunt. Once upon a time, there was an old woman, and one night when she went to bed, she thought to herself, "Now I must wake early and get up before it's light tomorrow morning, so as to get my eggs and butter to the market in good time." She went to bed early, and she woke up while it was still dark, and having no clock, and knowing nothing about the moon or the stars, she thought it must be time to load up her butter and eggs and go to market, though really it wasn't yet midnight. So, at that strange time, she got her sleepy horse out of the stable, got on his back, and set off, panniers, cloak, and all. Now it was on Dartmoor that this old woman lived, and on her way to town she had to go over a place called Heathfield. A big, dreary sort of a moor it was, a queer place to ride over in the dark of midnight. She hadn't been riding long before she heard the cry of hounds. And by what light there was, it was a bare open place and there were plenty of stars in the clear sky, she made out that a hare was galloping towards her. When it got close it made a turn and a leap, and it leapt right onto the top of the wall close to her, as if to say, "Come and catch me." Now the old woman liked just such hunting as this, and she put out her hand, caught hold of the crouching hare, popped it into one of her wicker panniers, covered it over, and rode on. She hadn't gone far before she heard the hounds again, and in a minute she saw coming towards her something very strange. Nothing less than a horse without a head. On its back was a black rider, and he had a head all right, and horns as well, sprouting out from under a little jockey cap. And when she looked down, she saw that what was thrust into the stirrup on her side wasn't a foot in a boot, but a cloven hoof. All about this black rider on his headless horse were the hounds that she had heard baying to the scent of the hare. Very queer hounds they were, too. They had little horns on their heads, and as they whisked their tails about, they all shone like fire. And when the old woman gave a sniff, she noticed that there was a strong smell of sulphur. Now she was a bold old woman, and she'd got the hare in her pannier, and she wasn't going to give it up if she could help it. It seemed, too, that however clever he might be, the devil was no conjurer, for he didn't seem to know what had happened, but very civilly asked the old woman if she could tell him which way the hare had gone. But she shook her head. No, she hadn't seen any hare. So he set his heels to the sides of the headless horse, and giving a toot on his horn, horse, rider, and hounds all trotted away over Heathfield and out of sight, and you may be sure that the old woman was glad enough to see the last of them. And now she noticed something fresh. There seemed to be a sort of stirring and moving about in the pannier where, as she supposed, a frightened hare had been crouching as still as death. Now, to the old woman's utter amazement, the lid of the pannier began to open. There rose out of her basket, not a hare, but a beautiful lady, all dressed in white. The lady began to speak in a very sweet voice. "Dame," said she, "I like your courage. You have saved me from a state of suffering almost too terrible to be told to human ears. When I was a human woman, I committed a terrible crime, and I was doomed, as a punishment, to be chased every night by evil spirits, either above ground or below it, and the only way I could get free was to get behind them while they passed on in search of me. For many years I failed to do this, but now it is done, and you shall be rewarded. All your hens shall lay 2 eggs where they used to lay 1, your cows shall give milk all the year round, you shall talk twice as much as ever you did before, and your husband will never stand a chance in any quarrel between you. But," she went on, "beware of the devil, and don't grumble about paying your tithes to the church, for now he is your enemy, and he will try to do you a bad turn as soon as he finds out that you were clever enough to cheat him. He cheats others, so the thing he hates most in all the world is to be cheated himself. Be sure to remember, too, that he can change himself into all shapes except those of the lamb and the dove." As soon as she had finished speaking, the lady vanished, and the old woman never saw her again. But all that she had promised came true. The old woman had the best of luck, not only that morning at the market, but also when she got home again, and the devil never got her into his power, though he had many a try. She lived happy and she died rich.